Hello and welcome back to Paranormal NL Podcast, located in Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada. That's PNL Podcast for short. I'm your host and founder, Jen Noseworthy. Thank you for tuning in to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 FM on that Gulf. For tonight's holiday special on UPRN segment number 28, I've got a special guest from Tennessee, USA. Tonight, waiting backstage, we'll bring on shortly. For those guests listening in and from Canada, happy Long Victoria Day weekend coming up this weekend, otherwise known as May 24th, where we love to go on a road trip and go camping. So grab your favorite drink like a big pack of 2-4 beer and get that campfire ready. Paranormal NL Podcast is sponsored by the Bog Team, a boots-on-the-ground Bog Team doing historical paranormal investigations in Newfoundland, Canada. PNL Podcast believes in supporting international paranormal networking and highlighting global paranormal people, places, and things. If you'd like to be a guest on my show or have a historical heritage building that you'd like investigated in Newfoundland, contact paranormal.nl.podcast@gmail.com and follow PNL Podcast on the Bog Team on their link tree, which is Paranormal NL Podcast. Now let's get on with the show. Tonight, I have on with me Eric Freeman Sims, all the way from Tennessee. Welcome, Eric.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Should I say, welcome back. You were on PNL Podcast Season 2, Episode 55, for those UPRN fans who want to dig back into Season 2. I think that might have been when I was still doing just radio, Eric. Yeah. So you've branched out yourself. You're now an author. You have already been an investigator, a podcaster, a researcher, and now you've got your own house there, the Night House. Do you want to start talking a little bit more about yourself for the people who haven't heard about you and all your cool stuff?
Yeah, so I've been a researcher and investigator for over 20 years now, since I was a teenager, and just kind of built up. My career was in working as an emergency medical technician on an ambulance for 15 years, and I worked total 20 years in medicine. And I'm retired from that now. And then I started the podcast about 5 years ago, the Unseen Paranormal Podcast, and I kind of ended it after 170 episodes, kind of on hiatus until I decided to bring it back. I got busy with lots of other things.
I was going to ask you about that because on the Unseen Paranormal Podcast.
Yeah, kind of on hiatus right now. Excuse me. Just got really busy with the book, and
I didn't add it to your banner because I know, like you said, you've been super busy with your book and stuff. But folks, you can go back and check out his stuff for sure.
Yeah, there's 170 guests on there, and we talk about everything in the paranormal, all the weird stuff, and it was fun. Just not that I got burned out on it. It just, like I said, I got busy with other things.
You got way too much stuff on your plate, man.
I'm also and also got hired as the event coordinator for GoblinCon in Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
Right.
This October, so I'm planning all of that and booking speakers and vendors and
congrats.
All that stuff. Thank you. Yeah. And kind of just my experiences throughout life kind of rolled all into what I do now, because I do video production, audio production, and all that stuff. And ever since I was a kid, I always thought that I wanted to be a published author. I just didn't know what it was when I was a kid. And then, of course, the paranormal kind of dominate my life now. That was kind of the natural thing to do. So I wrote Small Town Haunts and Legends of Tennessee. And the point of the book is to find these locations that really nobody knows about, unless you kind of live in the area, or the legends of the area, that nobody really knows about. And just throw it's probably about 70% history too, interesting history with the ghost stories thrown in. And I don't want to say thrown in. Ghost stories are written in there about the locations, but I tried to find places that had an interesting history as well. And it's available on Amazon now. And right now it's free on Kindle Unlimited, I think, for another month. So,
I bet that took a while to compile all the stuff that's in there. Hey, Eric?
Yeah, it's almost 250 pages. And so it's in 4 different sections. The first section is all the legends.
Right.
And then Tennessee is divided into West, Middle, and East Tennessee by geographic division, actually. So West Tennessee on one side is Mississippi River that divides us from Arkansas and other states. And then between Middle Tennessee and West Tennessee is the Tennessee River. So the West Tennessee is in between Mississippi and the Tennessee, and then Middle Tennessee is divided on the other side with East Tennessee of the Cumberland Divide and Cumberland Plateau. So
when I think about Tennessee, Eric, I think about that Tennessee whiskey song.
yeah, Chris Stapleton and old.
I have to ask you now. I know you wrote the book, and you were talking a little bit about being a medical tech. Did you have a lot of experiences in the medical realm when you were working there?
Working
from one medical person to another, did you have a lot of that?
Working in emergency medicine, I didn't, because it's so fast paced.
Mm-hmm.
That if something paranormal did happen, you're focused.
Too busy.
On, you're way too busy. Because I worked in the ER and on the ambulance, and usually it's just way too fast paced. Now, before I became a medic on the ambulance, I worked nursing homes as a nurse tech, and I did work at one nursing home. That the wing that I worked on was the Alzheimer's lockdown unit, and which that means, for anybody that doesn't know, you have to have a code to get in and out. The doors lock automatically so that the patients can't wander off. And I worked night shift, and this wing of the building had been a nursing home for like 50 years. This was in like 2001, 2002. And so it was built as a nursing home. It had always been a nursing home. So you can imagine like the thousands of people who, unfortunately, were in the end of their lives were there. And it was extremely haunted. It was crazy. We'd walk around in the dark basically, so we didn't wake our patients up. There were only a few lights in the hallway on, and we'd go.
Yeah, what is it about the graveyard shift? Hey, Eric, it's always like super haunted, especially at the place like you mentioned at nursing homes, because most of the people, that's where they ended their life.
Yeah. Well, you'd hear footsteps behind you. Turn around, there's nobody behind you. Walk into a room, and there were. Kind of like if people are familiar with hospitals and stuff nowadays, they have it looks like a vent, but it's a night light, like in the bathroom, but it shines out in the room.
Right.
And they have those in every room, shining out of the bathroom. And you'd walk in, and we would push the wheelchairs into the bathroom out of the way so we would trip over them at night.
Yeah.
And you would see a silhouette of a person sitting in the wheelchair with the light backlighting them. And so it's just a black silhouette, but you turn the light on, there's nobody there. All the patients are in the bed, things like that. One night, the craziest thing that happened to me at that nursing home, one night, I was there on the floor by myself. The nurse and my partner, the other nurse tech, had gone to lunch.
That's when it all ramps up, right, Eric? You're the only one left on the unit, right?
Yeah. And the only light on the whole unit, and it's like a T shape.
Right.
And so the nurse's station is kind of on the corner, and the only light on in that whole hallway T shape was the nurse's station light.
Okay.
And but I'm going to go around and do rounds on the patients because we checked on them every 15 minutes. Make sure nobody's getting out of bed, things like that, because they're fall risk and things.
Right.
And I go to the T in the hallway, and I look to the left, and I see a really tall, skinny, younger guy in a black suit standing at the end of the hallway. And he was kind of backlit by the parking lot lights outside. There are double doors at the end with windows.
Yeah.
And he was standing at the very end, and he was backlit, and I could kind of see him. And he smiled at me and turned and went into a patient's room to the left of him because he was facing me. So
was he wanting you to follow him, you think?
I don't know. I was like, it's 3:00 in the morning. There's no visitors, nothing like that. I've never seen this guy in the building. Nobody had come through the, keypadded door.
Right.
And so I walked down there and I go to the patient's room. There's nobody there.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I've had a lot of weird stuff like that happen too.
Well, I go home at 7:00 that morning because I worked 11 to 7.
Yeah.
And I go home at 7:00 that morning, and I came back the next night, and about an hour after I left, one of the patients in that room died unexpectedly. Oh my gosh. So do you think that visitor was coming like an angel to, I don't know whether it be good or bad angel to come and get that person? I didn't get like any scary vibes, and he smiled at me. It wasn't like a creepy smile. Mm-hmm. It was just like an, you see me kind of smile. Like comforting one. Yeah. And so I've always called it the angel of death. But it wasn't anything bad, and the lady, not to make kind of like that movie City of Angels, right? Where he goes to get people and they just sit there and hang out and wait for them, and then they just go with them, right? Yeah. And not to make light of death, because it was somebody's mother, somebody's grandmother, somebody's sister, all that. But the lady who passed away was older, and she was end stage Alzheimer's. Okay. And so I just looked at it like, good for her. She's at peace now, type of deal.
Right.
But we had a lady who she was non-verbal Alzheimer's, end-stage Alzheimer's, and she was bedbound. And and I found this out the hard way, whenever she would yell about the man in the corner, somebody would die within 24 hours. Not just on that unit, but somewhere in the building.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the first time it happened, I was like, what do y'all mean somebody's going to die? Well, she's so-and-so's yelling about the man in the corner. And I hadn't heard her do that until this time. And so I was like, okay. And I'm like, whatever. I just kind of blew it off.
Right.
Because I was young and naive and not as much experience now as I do with the paranormal.
Right.
But inevitably somebody ended up dying within 24 hours. And she would keep doing it every night, all night. And usually the deaths would come in threes. And so you have 3 patients somewhere in the building, all over the building that would die. And we had, I think, 150, 175 patients at this nursing home. It's pretty good size. And once it was over, she was quiet.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So she could probably sense him for sure.
Yeah.
What is it about always in threes?
I don't know. Yeah, that's something that's always been weird to me too.
Yeah. 100%. Definitely. I'm sure you've had a lot of spooky stories that you've told a lot of different podcasters and stuff, but what's your one that sticks out in your head that you had happen to you?
The angel of death one was a big one, because that changed my view a lot on paranormal and religion, I guess, in a way. Didn't really make me religious. I'm agnostic, but made me believe more,
that maybe there might be something.
Yeah. And that there are, at least spirits that come to ferry us to the other side, type of thing. So, but it kind of opened my eyes to a lot more of the paranormal. And
I think also, in the medical field, Eric, really, unfortunately, get to deal, with death and stuff a lot, and see that and hear a lot more of that.
Yeah. And I think it made me more comfortable with the paranormal too. Just because that was a comforting thing. It wasn't a scary thing with this guy,
Yeah.
And so, but that was a big moment. I've had so many experiences. I mean, even with the night house, I'm it now. Every time we're there, it's things happen during the day, in the middle of the day, at night. It's just all day, every day. And they've kind of gotten used to me. So when I go there and talk to them, things happen. We hear voices, and they respond to me. And so I've been told by a couple of medium friends who've never even been at the house, all they've seen is pictures of the house, that they're grown pretty fond of me. So,
do you want to talk a little bit more about your house and how you got it started and everything?
Yeah. So we are coming up on owning it for a year. We bought it April 24th of last year, and it was just kind of on a fluke. It wasn't even a serious conversation at first. I was having a conversation with my investigative partner, Austin, and one of my good buddies, and we were talking about maybe eventually owning our own location, and got to look in, and you know how Facebook listens to you. So this group popped up. This group popped up of old houses, $50,000 and beyond, and old houses, $100,000 and beyond.
Right.
And what they do is they post from all over the United States. They post houses that are old that need somebody to buy them and save them, basically. And they're as cheap as $50,000 or less. And so
I love that people, restore historical houses and things like that, because it really needs to be done to keep the history.
And so
your house is beautiful.
Thank you. I started looking and seeing how cheap they were, because they needed work, and people don't. It takes the right person that wants to put the work in, And we went and looked at this house, and it's Hopkinsville is about an hour and a half from where we live. We actually live outside of Nashville, and Hopkinsville is right over the border into Kentucky. And we went and looked at it, and we drove home talking about like we already owned it. And we ended up looking at several other locations and liked them, but the night house just stuck out to us. We got a really good deal on it. It sits on 3 acres in the middle of town, and it's a 5,600 square foot, 210-year-old mansion.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's the oldest standing structure in the entire county. And it's one of the top 20 oldest standing structures in Kentucky, the whole state.
Wow.
It was built in 1815, and it's always been a private residence. Don't know who built it. We pick up the first owner on record that we found so far in the research, was in 1844. Was a man named J.P. Campbell, and he sold it. It's when he was selling it and it's his name's on the deed. So we don't know if he built it, because he was a big guy in the community, big real estate guy and an attorney and stuff. So, but yeah, we've done a lot of work on the house.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that y'all did.
Yeah. We kind of got shut down by the weather with winter coming in and all that stuff. So we're getting back on it here very, very soon. We've had so much rain here lately, flooding and things. But the next step is to paint all the columns and fix all the woodwork outside. So it'll be nice and bright white again and back to its former glory. But we call it the Knight House because the Knights bought it in 1860, and they raised all 7 of their kids in the house, and they owned it. The Knight family owned it until 1945. Owned it and lived in it until 1945. So for 85 years, they lived there. Excuse me. And so they have a predominant history. But the crazy thing is with J.P. Campbell, the Wares, the Wadills, the Knights, and the Rogers, it's only been 5 families who lived in the house in 200 years. The Knights lived there for 85 years, and the Rogers bought the house in 1948, and they lived there until 2014. So almost 65 years for them.
Okay.
So predominantly those 2 families, take up the majority of the history. J.B. Knight, the father, the head of the family who bought the house, he was a real estate magnate. He was an attorney, but he bought and sold real estate. And in the 1850s and 60s, he was worth about $40 million in today's money.
Wow.
He owned thousands and thousands of acres. The house originally sat on 300 acres. And
that's a lot of acreage.
Yeah, especially right off downtown.
So when you bought the house, did it come with all that acreage? Or
it came with the 300 acres, and it came with 11 enslaved people.
Wow.
The Knights were not big on slaves. They only had 5 house slaves when they moved into the Knight house, and the rest of them came with the property. They were not farmers. It was never a plantation. They only farmed to feed themselves. And we actually have found evidence that it possibly could have been on the Underground Railroad. The Knights could have been running the Underground Railroad through the house. Still looking for more evidence to prove that, like solidly prove it, but there's lots of things that point in that direction. So
interesting. Have you had very much activity in that realm, shall we say?
Activity as far as what?
With some of the folks who used to live there, or maybe even work there.
Oh yeah. There's that's all that we've come into contact with, because the people apparently love this house. I mean, for that one family to live for 85 years, another family to live there over 60.
Yeah,
they love of the house. And
did you find any like graveyards or anything on the property?
So they're so close to downtown Hopkinsville.
Yeah.
There's not a family cemetery. They're actually buried in Riverside Cemetery, where all the prominent families at the time were buried. And they still bury people there today. And so they're buried down there. The only thing I can't figure out is most of the family doesn't have headstones.
They don't.
They have a big family plot, and I know where it's at, but there's only 3 people that have headstones.
Huh.
And out of the, I think there's 10 people buried in the 9 or 10 of the family are buried in the plot.
Okay.
So with them having so much money, I just don't understand why they didn't have headstones. So we're going to try to remedy that. But the house is 6 levels. It's very weirdly built. It's been added on to and changed to serve each family throughout the years. Originally, it was just a brick structure that you see in the pictures. The big side portico with the big columns was not there. When the Knights moved in, they changed it over from Federal style to the Greek Revival that you see today. So they built the front porch with the columns. They built the side porch with the columns. They added a dining room onto the house. They added another bedroom onto the house. They had 7 kids, and all of their kids lived to adulthood.
Wow, that's a big family, right?
Yeah, before they started dying off. So, and the last kid, he was the youngest kid, and the youngest son, Thomas, he died in the house in 1940.
Okay.
And the Knight family, the extended family, kept it until 1945 before they sold it.
So you've got some activities that you had, it looks like in April at the Knight House.
Yeah. We're going to hopefully start doing this as a regular thing every few months, but an afternoon with authors, where we have authors in the house that are telling history and hauntings from around the area. Or like my good friend Cynn Shrader Hill, Signs from Beyond. She's bringing out that second book here very soon, I think this fall. But she collects stories from people about signs of their loved ones, coming back and talking to them. The other guest that we have is Pat Fitzhugh, and Pat Fitzhugh he's written 4 books on the Bell Witch legend.
Oh, okay.
He's kind of the expert on, I don't use that word in the paranormal, but as far as the legend and the story of the Bell Witch, he's the expert on the legend and the story. He can tell you everything about it. He's researched it for 40 years. He's written 4 books. So great guy. He's also, both of them will be speakers at our Goblin Con too in October.
Oh, I love Cynn Shrader Hill. I've had her on recently also. She's awesome.
Yeah. She also does, she's also the co-investigator when we do the public ghost hunts at the Night House.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So trying to do those every few months too, to let people come in and experience the house. And we also do historical tours. It's not just about the paranormal. It's all about the history. I mean, even with the paranormal, 80% of it for me is the history. And then the paranormal aspect is going in and talking to those people who aren't around anymore to find out more history or answer questions or, things like that and connect with them. I find that's the most fascinating thing in paranormal to me, is connecting to history in that way.
Do you use old school techniques, Eric, when you do your investigations, or what do you find a house responds to most?
We found when we started last September, letting teams in, and of course I went in and investigated with some people first a couple of times, and there's kind of a learning curve because, like I said, it's always been private residence. There's never been a paranormal team in there, but the previous owners had paranormal experiences, lots of them. Even the neighbors would see things in windows, experience things on property, see people that aren't there walking across property, things like that. So lots of that I heard of. And so it was kind of a learning curve to get them to communicate in a way, because they're just not used to the techniques we use, I guess, like the knocking and things like that. But I'm very old school. I don't use a lot of equipment. If I use equipment, it's something that I can take the human element out of. For example, like REM pods. And I don't ever tell anybody what to investigate with, what not, because I don't know either. I don't know. It's just my best guess, like everybody else. But for me, REM pods are too fallible. There's a little round, round things with antennas coming out that beep, makes loud shrieking, beeping noise. If you have a walkie-talkie, all you have to do is hit the mic button. You don't even have to talk in it. It'll set it off. And you can be 3 rooms away. So my thinking is, if that frequency of that mic, that walkie-talkie will make it go off, then if we're only 2 miles from the interstate, truckers have really powerful CB radios.
They do.
They'll go hundreds of miles. So why couldn't, yes, we're asking questions and it's going off, but it doesn't mean that it's something else is not influencing.
That's the thing with electronics, right? You don't know if that's exactly what's causing it, or could it be something else in the environment, like you said.
Right.
So that's why I kind of like the old school stuff more, if you can get that where you're at. If you're outside, that's sometimes kind of more hard to do if it's like I don't know, raining or really windy and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But
a lot of contamination.
It's easier.
Yeah, but I'm definitely a video audio person. I do like the cat toys that light up because I've seen them.
I've had them go off
on their
a lot.
own and things,
But then at the same time, I found sometimes they can be kind of sensitive if there's people walking around with like heavy boots or something like that, right? But I have seen them just go off without anybody walking around and things like that.
Yeah, we were investigating what the most incredible time I've ever seen one of those go off is we had a public ghost hunt actually that I was hosting with some friends at a museum, and had these big glass cases, but they're on a concrete floor. So you walking around is not affecting this whatsoever.
Right.
So I'm talking to the group that I'm leading, and I set one down on that glass display case.
Right.
And it sat there for 2 or 3 minutes, and my back was to it. And they were like, hey, that thing is going off. And I turned around, it's actually rolling around in a circle.
Oh.
The cat toy was.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And then it stopped and settled down. But it had been sitting there for a good minute and a half, 2 minutes before it just started rolling in a circle. And so, pretty crazy stuff.
Did you ask it to do anything like that, or it just started going nuts by itself?
This area of the museum, they believe that a mother and 2 kids hung out in this corner of the museum for whatever reason, whether it was their something they were attached to was there or what. And so I'd put it there for the kids, if there's any kids here. And so I
Yeah.
think that's what it was they were just curious about it because they, it lights up when I set it down. It was lit up and then it stopped. And yeah, it was rolling around in a circle.
Did you ever get any hitchhikers go home with you?
I have at my house living outside of Nashville. We do get the occasional passing through type spirits. They don't last very long. They don't do a whole lot. I've never had any real issues with them, other than kind of being annoying when you're trying to sleep or something because they want your attention, and then just kind of like go away. This is
right. Yeah.
But at this point, I'm just kind of nonchalant with that type of stuff. I mean, the first night that I slept in the night house, I was sleeping in the master bedroom with the big canopy bed.
Okay.
And I got woken up. We'd been asleep about an hour and a half because we'd been investigating. This is about 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And we had been investigating for like 8 hours from the previous evening. So they had plenty of time to get our attention, to bang around and all that stuff. And so I woke up out of a dead sleep, what sounded like a door slammed. And it was loud. And I thought, my buddy also was sleeping in the room next door. And with the old wood doors, they're really heavy and they're really easy to slam. I thought he'd gotten up to go to the bathroom. The bathroom is right beside the bedroom I was sleeping in. Now, he's just snoozing in the bed. There's nobody in the bathroom. It's just the two of us in the house. And then I heard like somebody moving around in the room. And I'm like, no, you had your chance. I'm going back to sleep. Leave me alone.
I'm going to bed now. Leave me alone. But
yeah. It's like 8 hours. You had your chance to make noise and talk to us. And the crazy thing is I have 8 cameras throughout the house that are always on, and they're
do you have them on I was going to say the night vision, or?
Yeah, they automatically switch over to night vision.
Yeah.
And they alert me on my phone with any kind of movement or sound.
Okay. Yeah.
And that master bedroom, man, the camera goes off all the time, and I moved it around the room, and it sounds like the noise is behind the camera, but it sounds like somebody moving furniture around and banging and slamming drawers and opening doors and drawers, and you'll hear mumbles every once in a while.
Right.
But there's a camera on the other side of the wall in that other bedroom.
Yeah.
It does not pick up the same sound, but as loud as the noises are, it should. So it's really weird how, and the same thing happens in the parlor. We've had some really loud noises in the parlor. One night we had, it alerted me, and there were lights on in the parlor.
Yeah.
Some of the lamps were on, so it wasn't in night vision. But we heard on the recording, you can hear 8 bangs in a row. It sounds like somebody's hitting someone with a hammer. 8 in a row, 8 times in a row. And then you hear a voice say, "Nobody's home," and it laughs. Well, I have a camera on the front porch, and I have a Google doorbell camera on the back porch. I checked both of those. Nobody was knocking on the door.
Maybe they were trying to wake y'all up and saying nobody's home, or maybe they were trying to help you with the renovation. Was this during renovations? Because that R word always stirs up ghosts, right, Eric?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think they're happy with what we're doing so far. But those noises, that loud, it sounded like a hammer. That should have set off other cameras in the house. Because if a siren goes by on the road, at least 3 of the cameras will go off at the same time for sound.
So the ghosts were having a party trying to get you up?
Apparently they pick what camera records what, too. But we've also had the chairs in the parlor will move on their own.
Oh, gosh.
The doors in the parlor have closed on their own several times. I actually caught that on camera. It took 3 hours for one of them to close because it would inch forward and then inch back, and then I time lapsed it. I condensed like 30 seconds, and you see it inch forward, inch back until it closes all the way.
And there was no breeze or anything like windows and all that stuff?
No.
Interesting. Yeah, I love when you capture evidence that you don't realize happened. Like you can be doing an investigation and just have trail cams set up everywhere.
Right.
And I find you capture the most stuff when nobody's paying attention, nobody's ghost hunting, or just talking or just saying whatever. And then you'll hear like somebody talking who's not even in the room. Or, all kinds of weird stuff like that.
I think sometimes they get bored because you have different, like at the night house, you have different teams come in, but they're asking a lot of the same questions.
Yeah.
And so when you're just talking amongst yourselves, I think they're trying to chime in on the conversation with you. One night we had taken a couple of our friends up who this was their first time going to the night house. And this is on a Friday night. And we were there about 10:30. And we were upstairs in what we call the guest room. And it's right above the parlor, and we were talking, and we all heard a man's voice from the parlor, like that he was trying to comment on what we were talking about. And I caught that on the camera in the guest suite and the camera in the parlor. His
Interesting.
voice. Yeah, and it was louder in the parlor.
I think there's something to what you said about them getting bored, because I've had a lot of them say, more back to the stories. Let's talk more about the stories, or like
Yeah.
they don't like being some kind of circus pet,
Yeah,
asking them to do this or touch that or do this. They kind of like listening to stories and telling their stories more. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think they. I mean, it seems like it would be awfully lonely. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're there by yourself, or there with a couple of other spirits, and who's even to say if you have multiple spirits like we do at the night house, and we believe there's 3 main ones that are there all the time. Can
Probably, yeah.
they even see or interact with each other? Are they on the same
That's
plane?
what I was wondering, kind of like that TV show Ghosts, where they're all stuck in the house, but they're all from different times and things like that. I wonder, can they go back and forth in between different times, or are they all just stuck in the house in the time where they passed?
Yeah. So it's interesting. And the 3 spirits that we have are from 3 different time points. One of them is more recent in the 2010s. One of them is from the 50s, 60s, we believe, and the other one is one of the knights, which is in the 1800s. So would have been in the late 1800s if it's the person that I think it is. And so, yeah, you have all these different ones. And also, I mean, I've seen a lady who I believe is Eliza Knight, which was the mom of the family. This is JB's wife. I've seen her on the landing for the stairs to the parlor.
Did you?
So I think I think sometimes they pop in and out too. I think some of the Knight family. Also, we've had one group. We've had quite a few teams in now doing investigations, and we've only had a couple of groups that picked up the Knights and their names, other than the one that I believe is there all the time. But I did a quick tour for these one people because they're only doing 7 to midnight. So I gave them just kind of the cliff notes, and I really didn't use any of the Night member family's names. And at the end of the night, they came back to me and they said, "Does John mean anything?" And I said, "Well, that was JB Knight's name. His name was John Bailey Knight." And I'm like, "Oh," but I just called him JB when I gave him the tour. Yeah. And then I didn't say anything about the kids' names. And they said, "What about Ida?" Because Ida's a weird name.
Yeah.
That was
a very common name, is it?
Ida was their youngest daughter. And she lived in the house until 1938.
You know, that's interesting. I was just going to ask you, do you think if you talk about the certain people more, do you think that they show up more often because you're talking about them?
I think it could bring them in, yeah, to see because they're curious. But I think the Knight family's curious anyway because they seem to be the ones who did the biggest renovations on the house.
Okay.
Up until the owner we bought it from. The owner we bought it from bought the house in 2014, and they did a lot to it. Yeah. But they didn't do a lot of cosmetic stuff. They did a lot of structural stuff, things like that, updating electrical, plumbing, things like the bones part of it, to where we finished that part of the stuff that they didn't get to finish, to where now we're on to the cosmetic stuff.
Have you asked them, do they like what you did?
I think so. They haven't shown me that they don't. The last time that I asked them to give me a sign if they like what we're doing, I was actually leaving the house. I was there by myself. And I was leaving, and I come walking through the dining room. Right. When you come out the dining room into the house, you come into the foyer that opens up to the side porch. Yeah. And I was fixing to leave, so I was telling them. I always tell them hi when I come in, good morning, talk to them, and I always tell them bye and tell them when I'll be back. And I just happened to say, I said, "Well, on the cameras tonight, give me a sign if you like what we're doing with the house," because we had just finished the kitchen ceiling, and we actually put real wood plank ceiling in it. And they didn't wait. As soon as I said that, there was a big loud knock that came from behind me in the dining room. And no explanation for that. The house really doesn't make noises, like settling noises. It's been there for 210 years. It's not going to settle anymore. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when you sit in there, no, you can sit there by yourself and it's completely quiet. The only time it makes pops and cracks is when you walk through the house, and that's the wood resettling after you walked on the wood floors or the wood stairs. Right. Yeah. But other than that, if I'm just sitting back in my office in the quiet, the house is quiet. You don't hear those type of house noises. At night, it's completely quiet too, unless the ghosts make a noise. We actually tried an experiment because we think that the Rogers family, who lived there from 1948 until 2014, they had a domestic servant that lived with them that they paid, a older black lady who was the nanny for their three kids, and she lived there in the house, and she cooked and cleaned and did all that. And her name was Georgie. And we believe she's still in the house. And so we did an experiment because I had one of my medium friends tell me that she did not like the way that I made the beds.
Really? Go away with that.
And that she's always coming behind us trying to tidy things up that she doesn't like. So my husband, Roger, who you showed the picture of me and him a minute ago,
right.
He said, let's try this. Let's open all the doors and drawers of like the cabinets, dressers, the buffet, the Chinatown.
What did they do when you did that?
And leave. And we did because we were leaving. And we weren't coming back for a couple of days. The cameras went off nonstop with bangs from every room in the house. Like she was not happy that we did that. Oh. We go back 2 days later and we shut them all.
Yeah.
It all stopped. It was quiet for 4 or 5 days on the camera.
Oh, wow. She did not like that.
Yeah. She apparently kept a very tidy house and wanted to stay that way. And how dare you leave all the doors and drawers open?
So, I think I've seen other people try that, and they did get some reactions out of the people or the house.
Yeah. I did an accidental experiment. Excuse me. For Halloween, at clearance at Lowe's, Home Improvement, there's it's a stack of books, and then it has the Thing hand from Addams Family.
Okay.
From the Wednesday show on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it's like life size.
Yeah.
And it's motion sensor. And when you set it off, he taps his finger like Morse code like he does on the show, and you hear Wednesday's voice telling you what he's saying. Well, at the end of it, one of the bookends flops down and a spider jumps out at you because it's Halloween prop.
Right.
Well, I left it in the foyer on the table, on this round table in the foyer that has a fire base on it, and I left it there and forgot it, and it was on. And there's a camera in the foyer that points right across there against the whole room. And that thing went off at random times until I went back in there a couple of days later and turned it off. Yeah, it's there was no rhyme or reason to it. It wasn't because the sun was casting a shadow. It went off at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Somebody was there playing with it.
4 in the morning. Yeah. And we just had a team in a couple weekends ago that had one of those bells that's motion. It's supposed to be like, it's not even motion sensor. It's something like sonic. So it's like the movement of the air when you walk by or something. I don't know. It's something weird. But that thing went off a lot. And the thing is, it would respond to them. They left it in the foyer on the table. And they would walk by and like wave at it, and it would ding.
Oh, cool.
And there's no way for it to go off that way from what I understand. Yeah. It's like
did they try SLS after that to see if they mapped anybody? Or
no,
people don't believe in SLS, but other people's do.
Yeah, they didn't have SLS.
No, okay.
But anytime they started talking about that, I was standing in the kitchen with them while they were on break, and they were telling me about the bell going off whenever they would hi to it or say hi to the spirits. And when we were talking about it, ding, the bell went off. And every time they would mention it, it would go off. And so I don't know, it was weird.
You've been in a lot of different places too yourself. There's one here, you at the Old Stone Jail.
Yeah. Old Stone Jail is an amazing place. It's in Franklin, Kentucky. And been up there many times. I've hosted many public ghost hunts up there. And that was from the Strangely Haunted kind of little series that I did with my friend Austin. We had some incredible things happen there.
Gotta give a shout out to Austin Lawrence. He's coming on the show soon.
Yeah, Austin's awesome. You'll like him. He's a great guy.
You got a happy bird. Do you have a bird?
Yeah, it's we just had a lot of rain. The sun actually finally popped out today. So.
Oh, I thought you had one in the house.
Oh no, I've got the window open. So
nice.
All the Tennessee birds are chirping and they're flying back from the winter. So, but yeah, me and Austin did a little documentary series and had some incredible things happen. The Old Stone Jail was pretty crazy. I've investigated many times. That's actually the Old Stone Jail is across the street from the museum I was talking about that the cat ball rolled around on the case.
Okay.
In that video, we investigated both of them, and yeah, the museum is quite interesting as well.
Yeah, you've done a lot of different things. Let's see. I was going through your stuff there, and Strangely Haunted. Did you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's a little documentary series that we started. Like I said, me and my buddy Austin, we film all of it, we edit all of it, do it all ourselves. It's kind of on hiatus. He is filming his own TV show right now. So Strangely Haunted is on hiatus. We took a break also because I was finishing the book and getting the book out, and he started a TV project that should be out, which he'll talk more about that with you, but yeah, he started that while he was waiting on me to get on with my book. So hopefully we'll get back to Strangely Haunted at some point in time. It doesn't look like it in the near future because his TV show is probably getting very popular, and my book has been popular, and I'm busy with lots of other things too. So whenever we have time, we actually filmed we have all of the stuff, and half of it's edited for Brushy Mountain Prison in Petros, Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
And we just haven't had time to put it together and put it out. We had some incredible things happen at that prison. That prison was called the End of the Line, and everybody there was either on death row or had a life sentence. So they had nothing to lose. So there were so many murders there on prisoners murdering other prisoners, because what are they going to do? Give you another life sentence, another death sentence? And it was in operation from the late 1800s until I think 1990 something, and has no air conditioning, no heat. Just very primal. I mean, they had indoor plumbing and things, but
yeah, prisons are next level investigations, aren't they?
Yeah, we have some one incredible thing that we have on film that even if we don't put out a Brushy Mountain actual documentary, I want us to at least put out the evidence, because this is one of the most incredible things I've ever captured. And it was just me and Austin filming, and we're on the third tier of one of the cell blocks, so we're 3 stories up. And there's a cell where a guy got killed. It was his cell, but he was a beloved prisoner by the guards and stuff from all stories of him. But anyway, he got killed in the theater room that they had for years, because they thought it was a good idea to put a bunch of these violent people in a dark room. But they had so many murders in 2 years that they got rid of the theater. No more movie night. Oh, but he got killed there. But they say he still hangs around his cell. Well, I'm filming and hearing footsteps come towards me. And Austin, and the story is that if you light a cigarette and you put it on the bars, something will actually puff on it.
I like doing that. Have you ever done that?
So I lit a cigarette and I put it on the flat, because you have the round bars come down, you have the flat bars go across. I put it on the flat bar. Austin just happened to turn around and zoom in on the cigarette, and the cigarette it's flat. It tilts back on its own, like it's going to fall off. It should have fallen off, and there's no reason for it to tilt back.
Right.
And you see the cherry get a little bit redder, and then lays right back down.
Interesting. I love it.
Neither one of us had any explanation for how could that tilt back on its own for one.
Well, I mean, what gives people pleasure in prison? Cigarettes, right?
This cell, people leave cigarettes all the time too.
Yeah,
so there's cigarettes all in the cell. There's a checkerboard. Like, people leave stuff for this spirit all the time. And he was known to stand up there. They used to smoke inside the prison because it's all open air.
Right.
I mean, it's an enclosed building, but there's no heat or air. They just had to open the windows, for air. So he would sit up there and smoke. So he was known for being a chain smoker. But that's one of the most incredible things that I've ever seen on video.
Yeah, tobacco is a pretty interesting trigger object when you use it. Now, you've also got the Goblin thing that you're organizing now, right?
Yeah, so Goblin Con UFO and Paranormal Expo is going to be in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And if anybody's ever heard of the Hopkinsville Goblin incident,
can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this is the 70th anniversary, happened in 1955 to the Sutton family on their farm.
Okay.
And the Suttons were just poor farmers. They weren't anybody special, just living their lives. They hunted on the land to get meat. They hunted deer and things, and they farmed. And one night, the son was visiting, and he was, I think, 19 or 20, and his best friend was with him, and his best friend's girlfriend. They were visiting his mom on the farm. And she was going to cook him dinner and all that stuff. And it was a Sunday night, and the friend, who was younger too, he was 19, 20 as well, he said that he was out on the property, out on the farm property, and I forget how many acres they had. They had quite a few acres. And he said he saw a UFO, flying saucer. And you got to think, this is only a few years, 1955 is only a few years after Roswell.
Yeah,
So flying saucers
close together, right? Yeah.
Big thing. So, and they didn't believe him. They thought he'd been in the moonshine because you're in moonshine country, right? People making their own hooch. So they thought he'd been in the moonshine and said, Billy Ray, just get in the house and eat some dinner. You'll be okay. As they were going to the house, something reached down off the roof and tried to grab one of them by the hair and pull him off the roof. And the mom saw it, and so did her son.
Okay.
Tried to grab the friend.
Right.
Well, they pulled him in the house. Well, they ended up getting attacked by these little 3 foot tall. They weren't. I don't know why they ever got the green men thing. That they were green because they weren't. They were in these. They were kind of gray looking. Their faces and they had big ears that were kind of gray looking.
Yeah,
they're in
some kind
of metal suit that's like gunmetal gray.
Okay.
And they're about 3 foot tall, and they attacked the family for 5 hours straight. This family is shooting out their own windows from inside the house, shooting through the walls at these creatures in the windows and the tree.
Oh my gosh!
The creatures trying to get in the house. There were at least, I think, 5 or 6 of them that they said were trying to get in the house. And they fended them off, and they said every time they would shoot one of them, it would knock them down or whatever, but it made like a ricochet sound, like they had some kind of armor on. That like gunmetal gray stuff was like armor that wasn't penetrating. Some
kind of force field or shield or something around it. Yeah.
So they could never hurt one of them. Well, finally, the attack subsided after 5 hours. That they got to go into town and get the sheriff in Hopkinsville.
Okay.
Kelly is a little town right about 5 minutes outside Hopkinsville.
Yeah.
And they got the sheriff. And the sheriff came out and investigated, and he could find no reason not to believe them. And so he did his investigation. He had deputies come out and they did their investigation. And of course, people thought they were crazy or crack, whatever. You've been in your own hooch, whatever. You're lying for attention, whatever the reason was. And the big thing was people were saying that they were being attacked by owls.
Owls? But that don't make any sense. Why would you shoot a gun at an owl, right?
Well, and also these people are country farm people. I mean, these are people who are going into the woods hunting their own food. They know what's in the woods. They know what an owl looks like versus an alien.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so the sheriff and everybody leaves, and the sun still hasn't come up yet. And the family decides, okay, we're going to try to lay down, because the mom who owned the farm, Miss Sutton, she still had 3 or 4 small children that were between the ages of like 8 and 12 or 13.
Okay.
Lucky Sutton, her son, was like the oldest or whatever. He was already grown, like 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
And so the kids were scared. They were hiding under the bed while this all was happening. And so she tried to calm them down, get some sleep, Yeah. Well, the things attacked again.
Oh, no.
And they fended them off. But when the sun started coming up, the aliens kind of booked it out there. What I've been told is that the spot where the spaceship landed, nothing would grow, not even grass.
That's a popular event, right? When something lands like that because of the radiation, right?
Yeah. So we're celebrating the 7th anniversary of that incident that kind of put Hopkinsville on the map. A lot of people know of that. Well, even if they don't know about where Hopkinsville is, they've heard of Hopkinsville goblins. And 2 weeks after that happened, the mom sold the farm and actually moved into an apartment in Hopkinsville because she was so afraid they would come back. And also, people were trampling all over their land, stealing everything as a souvenir.
Oh, no, that's too bad.
Yeah. Also, it's one of the cases that the Air Force came out. The Army came out because Fort Campbell, 101st Airborne Army Base, is 20 minutes from Hopkinsville in Tennessee, half in Tennessee, half in Kentucky. And the Army actually came out and investigated, but they never denied that it happened. Like they would put out statements of like it was swamp gas. They saw this. They were in they're in their own liquor or whatever. Right, they always kind of this crazy. It was like Roswell. They said it was a weather balloon.
Yeah.
They never come out and made a statement one way or the other about this.
Interesting.
Interesting of its own. Yeah.
Yeah. So they probably know what happened, right?
Yeah, but there's a lot more to the story. Like one of the reporters separated 3 of them and had them do sketches. All the sketches match. If you go and look online, you can see the original sketches. They all look very similar. If you're lying, you're not going to have a sketch that looks, the same,
Right.
Things like that. And all their stories line up. And so Geraldine Sutton, who's the daughter of Lucky, the son that was there, and it was her grandmother's farm. She was not alive then. She did not hear the story from her father until she was 8 years old. and didn't even know it ever happened until she was 8. And so she's kind of carried on the family story to make sure what this crazy thing that happened to her family is not forgotten. So she's working on her 4th book now about the incident. And she's going to be one of our speakers. She'll be on the UFO panel.
That should be interesting to have her speak.
Yeah, and hear it straight from her, and her tell all the details and stuff that she was told from her aunts and uncles and her dad. And we're also doing workshops, so it's not just going to be you sit and listen to speakers speak at you. We're going to do some workshops, 3 or 4 of them, where you can actually come and learn how to investigate. We're going to do ghost hunting 101, cryptid hunting 101. So if you are just curious of how people ghost hunt or go out and look for Bigfoot, you can come and do those workshops. And those are interactive, so the audience can ask questions, and it's going to be like a class where it's back and forth between the speaker and the audience. And then
I always like to promote paranormal tourism. So, folks, if you're going to be in the area in October, you definitely got to go check out his Goblin Con and also the Night House in Kentucky.
And you can find out more about Goblin Con at goblinconky.com. And the Night House is the Night House, KNIGHT.ky.com as well. And yeah, it should be a good time. It's a 2-day expo, and we've got some paranormal celebrities people see on TV, and a lot of really, really cool people that are going to be speaking. We got a lot of cool vendors. We've already got booked as well that do some awesome artwork and other things that are paranormal themed, paranormal like stuffed animals and this incredible artwork that some of them do that's very lifelike. And we even got a lady who does paranormal themed. I forget what they call them, but the things you hang in your car that smell good.
Oh yeah, the air freshener.
They have a certain name for them. Yeah, but the air fresheners for your car. Right, they have a weird name for them. But she makes like Mothman ones and like Goblin ones, and
That's the great thing about when you go to these cons, right? The festivals. You never know who you're going to meet or what you're going to find there. There's all kinds of cool stuff to see and do. And I love the paranormal tourism part of it. So, do you have your own bucket list for paranormal tourism? Someplace where you'd like to go that you haven't been?
I kind of hit a couple of them the past few years. Went to Gettysburg a few years ago, and also went to St. Augustine. And I've been to St. Augustine, Florida, many, many times, but I never investigated. And I got to use the podcast. I kind of took it out on trade with one of the tour companies. I got to go do private paranormal stuff with one of the tour companies, and they got to be advertised on my show and all that. So that was nice, and they're awesome. They're great people. I'm still in contact with them today. But so I got to do a lot of the stuff in St. Augustine, Florida, which is the oldest city in the United States. And of course, Gettysburg is world famous for being this huge Civil War battle and movies and things. So that was amazing as well. As far as bucket list, I think maybe some things in Washington D.C. would be interesting.
Like some of the monuments, or
well, some of the historical places, like even in like Philadelphia, where like the Constitution for the United States was signed, and the Declaration of Independence and things like that. But like in Washington D.C., I guess like Ford's Theater, where Lincoln was shot. Some of those places, some of the hotels that are still open, where all of these famous American presidents and like these not just American presidents, but like diplomats from all over the world have stayed there, had these scandals happen there, things like that. Just interesting.
There's a lot of places around the world, that's for sure. And we've got the oldest city here in North America up here in Newfoundland Labrador and St. John's. It's a very old city. So if you like old places, come visit us. We got all kinds of old stuff up here.
That would be very cool. I'm a huge fan of Curse of Oak Island, and I think that whole area north is beautiful up there.
All the Atlantic provinces over here. We got a lot of old, scary stuff up here, 100%. And lots of places to go camping on your May 24th, the long road trip weekend. Lots of paranormal stuff you can do all over the place. Hey,
happy Victoria Day to all of my northern neighbors.
Thanks. Well, thanks so much again for being on the show. Do you want to give some shout outs to your fans and tell the fans again on some of your events or any other things that you want to throw out there? Anything about your book or?
Yeah. Like I said, the book is free on Kindle Unlimited for the next month. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can go check it out for free. And this is gonna be a book series. So the next one is gonna be Kentucky. And then
Okay.
so we'll see where it goes and see where it
That
leads.
was going to be my next question. When's the next book going to come out? Are you
I actually
starting to work on
research on it.
Are
I'm trying to get it out by the end of September. So
Oh, nice. Okay.
yeah. And then the Night House, like I said, whether you're into the history or the paranormal or both, we do history tours and things, and we rent it out for the paranormal, public ghost hunts, all that stuff. And Goblin Con, yeah, we've got actually have hotel rooms with some special rates for people coming to Goblin Con as well. We're gonna have VIP packages. It's gonna be a lot of fun. The VIP package is gonna have a meet and greet dinner with all the speakers, and then we've got a bunch of other stuff planned for the VIP stuff. But yeah, check us out. A lot of fun.
Yeah, take a road trip. Go and check out Eric and his Night House and all the cool stuff you got on the go.
And the Unseen Paranormal Podcast has 170 episodes with different guests. So go listen to it. It's anywhere you find podcasts. It's even on YouTube. Even though I never did video, but it's on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Google, anywhere you find music podcasts.
Love it. Folks, you're listening in on UPRN, United Public Radio Network, and that's a 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 FM in that Gulf. And UPRN is a 30-year-old award-nominated FM station with a large podcast division that calls New Orleans home and brings the absolute best productions in various genres, which include, but are not limited to, metaphysical, current events, lifestyle, sports, holistic, politics, and news. And the network has a wide range of shows that collectively delve into high strangeness topics like the paranormal, ufology, cryptozoology, ancient technology, civilizations, esoteric, supernatural, occult, conspiracy theories, and the unexplained and out of this world. So listen in on UPRN. And thanks again, Eric, for being on the show and coming back on Paranormal NL Podcast.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed having you on here. We're going to leave you with a little song here from the Bog Team. You can follow the Bog Team music on all streaming platforms by Robert Dumond from the Bog Team member, Boots on the Ground team. And I think we'll play his, his Metal 80s song. Thanks again, everybody, and have a happy road trip weekend. Happy Victoria long weekend. Party hardy, my friends.
Boots on the ground, we hunt in the dark, chasing shadows where the whispers start. Ghostly figures in the midnight hour, specters grip with icy cold